Hello everyone. My name is Troy Thicker. I'm lead pastor at the Vineyard, and I just wanted to do this Facebook Live tonight to give us a chance to have a dialogue. You know, a lot of times when I'm sharing messages, it's just pretty much me talking at people, and I prefer to have a dialogue, a conversation. So I want to just do a little bit of live chat tonight. I'm going to be sharing a few money-saving tips, as well as hopefully get some live questions and answers that come in so that we really can have a conversation about this. And I want to encourage you, if you haven't already, on Sunday I shared about coming alive financially, and there are some helpful tips in there as well. So I'd encourage you to check that out if you can. While we're waiting for a couple people to come on, I'll just kind of summarize the highlights of that message in case you missed it. One was that basically Jesus had a lot to say about money. There's over 2,000 verses in the Bible that talk about money in different ways, and Jesus actually taught more about money than he taught about prayer. Not necessarily because he thought prayer was not as important as money, but because money really is kind of a window to our soul of what's happening on the inside and what's happening in our spiritual life with God. So that's why he used it for so many illustrations and things like that. I also asked people to share some tips. So a lot of people chatted those in the live chat on YouTube and on Facebook. So I'll be sharing a lot of those tips here today. I also had a whole bunch of tips that I wanted to share on my message, but I really just kind of ran out of time, and you guys would get sick of watching me. So I thought I'd kind of split it up a little bit and do this live tonight. So let's see, how many folks we got here? Let me get on live here on my computer as well so I can see some of the thread. If you're here, go ahead and say hi. Let us know. Maybe say something that you're interested in learning about tonight. There we go. Pulling it up now. Okay. Well, that's not working real great. So Denise, my trusty assistant, is going to help if you have any questions. Go ahead and type those in, and maybe periodically I'll just kind of refer back to the questions, and I'll do the best I can. I'll also mention real quick, I am not a financial advisor. I am not getting paid to do this. Please don't take anything I say with a grain of salt. Some of the things I'm sharing are things I've learned the hard way. Other things I've learned, been doing well, and then other things are really not my ideas at all. I've never even tried them yet, but good ideas that other people have shared. So first of all, let's talk about groceries. I know that probably for groceries, many of us right now are spending more on groceries than maybe we have in the past because we're stuck inside, we're not able to go out as much, and so we're learning to adapt, and our grocery bill is rising because of that. So a couple of tips on that. Probably many of you are already doing this already, but I would really encourage you to use up food that's already been in your pantry. Early on in the whole thing, Denise and I did that. We kind of looked through our freezer and found out what kind of meat we had and what we had in the cupboards. Try and use up some of those things that have been sitting in there for a few months, just to kind of use those up and be good stewards of the food. Some other people had some great ideas. One is that they use the newspaper ads, like from the grocery stores, to actually plan their meals. So based on whatever's on sale, they will pick out, okay, pork is on sale this week, so I'm going to buy a pork roast, and then I'm going to use up this thing from my pantry for the sides or for the vegetable. So I thought that was a good idea. One person mentioned shopping at Aldi, which I agree. I think that's a great place to shop. We noticed that our grocery bills are less when we shop there. Part of it is because they just don't have as much of a selection, so you're not always tempted. It also saves time. It's just not as big of a store. One thing I like when I go shopping there is, like, if I want to buy corn, I don't have to pick through 16 different types of corn. I can just pick one, and it just saves me a lot of time as well. So Aldi is great for that. One person said buy less meat. You know, I love buying meat. I love eating meat. But that's a great way to save money. You know, a lot of times meat is the most expensive part of the meal. So if you're looking to cut back, maybe reducing the amount of meat that you're using, or using a vegetarian dish would be a great way to save some money. One person said canning food using a pressure cooker. So basically using stuff from your garden, sharing things like that, and then making a meal in advance. You know, canning tomatoes so that you don't have to buy tomatoes. You know, you can use them from your garden. One person mentioned they use an Instapot to cook bagged beans because they're cheaper than canned beans. You know, I don't have an Instapot, but if you have one, that might be a good tip. I would also say maybe like sometimes all these extra things like pressure cooker, Instapot, you might think, oh, that's a great idea. Well, you know, sometimes you need to spend money to save money, but this might not be a time to go out and buy another couple $100 worth of appliances. Maybe just focusing on using what you have first. If you already have one, great, use that, but that would be just a little tip there. I would also say, this isn't necessarily a money saving tip, but I think it's really important right now to prioritize your own health. Okay, physical health, emotional health, mental health, spiritual health, those things that are keeping you healthy, I would actually encourage you to maybe spend even more money than you have in the past on some of those things. Really, our health is the most important thing to us right now. And so if you can do things that will help you stay physically healthy, spiritually healthy, and even just give yourself a break mentally and emotionally, that's going to be really good for you in the long run. So you might actually increase your budget on that. Try and save money in other areas so that you could maybe spend more in that, or else just spend what you already do on that. That would be good. One thing that I'm trying to improve on is kind of a concept called letting it marinate. What that means is if you're doing some online shopping, you know, some of us are tempted to do retail therapy where if we're bored or tired or feeling low, we think, oh, if I just buy this thing, it'll make me feel better. And so we do some shopping online. What I would encourage you to do is to go ahead and put those things in your cart. You know, maybe that will satisfy that desire. But here's the trick. Don't actually buy the stuff in your cart. Kind of sleep on it. You know, give yourself overnight. Wake up in the next morning, the next day, and then think again, okay, is this something that I really need? Or can I remove this? And you might find that maybe that thing that you thought of at 10 o'clock when you were tired, when you wake up with a fresh mind the next day, maybe that doesn't seem like such a good idea anymore. So you can go ahead and cancel that order. Take it out of your cart. You know, one of the things I mentioned in my sermon that's been super helpful for us is to make a plan on how to spend your money. Okay, some people call this a budget. Most people don't like budgets, but I like the words making a plan on how to spend your money because what I've noticed throughout my life, the times that we have a plan on how to spend money, we do much better. But then what happens is we maybe get some extra money, or because we've been disciplined for a while, we have a little bit extra money available to us. And then we get a little bit lazy. We start thinking, oh, we got the money, we'll go ahead and buy this. And we don't do as well at thinking about what are the upcoming expenses, you know, the car registration, the home insurance, taxes, those sorts of things sort of creep up on you if you're not planning. And so all of a sudden we realize, oh geez, we maybe shouldn't have bought that new pair of skis because I got the Christmas coming up, you know, things like that. So making a plan to spend your money is super helpful, and really whatever works for you. I know a lot of people have different methods. The important thing is to find one that works. You know, I mentioned in my sermon as well, Denise and I use one called YNAB, which is You Need a Budget. It's a little tricky at first to get going, but we save way more money than what it costs. I think it costs like $12 a month or so to use the app, but it syncs up with our accounts, so that helps us track as we go. It saves a lot of time for us. Works really well. I know there's another one that Dave Ramsey uses called Every Dollar that some people use as well. I know a lot of people use spreadsheets or just pen and paper or envelope system. There's lots of different kinds of ways to make a budget plan, but the main thing is to do one that works for you. I'll also mention, real quick, these are just some things on getting help. Actually, Denise, are there any questions? Have been anything coming in yet? Okay.
Oh, what about hobbies?
What about hobbies?
Yeah, I don't know when that came in though.
Someone asked, what about hobbies?
Yeah. This has been about the...
Maybe about the prioritizing health?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and start thinking about that. So I think hobbies are part of prioritizing your health. If you know me and my lifestyle, I love to fish, I love to go hunting, I love to play golf, I love to be outside and enjoy nature. And so for me, hobbies are one of the main ways that I rest and relax. And when I'm rested and relaxed, I do a better job at work. I have more patience with my family. A lot of my hobbies also are related to my physical health, you know, like biking and running and skiing. And sometimes I have to buy a new pair of shoes, or I do have to buy some new gear. So to me, I think that's part of taking care of yourself. Now this I will also mention, Denise would agree with me, hobbies can be one of those areas that I can overspend if I'm not careful. So that's why it's good to have a plan ahead of time on how much you're going to spend on those hobbies, and agree with your spouse if you're married on what really is an appropriate amount of money to spend on those things. Make sure you're in agreement about that. So that's a great question. If anybody else has questions, let me know as well. I'm going to mention a couple other things here, and then I'll come back. One person said plant a garden, which I think is a great idea. Planting a garden really can save a lot of money on produce. But again, I would say this with a caveat. Be careful on this, because if you don't have any gardening tools or gardening supplies, you could end up spending like a ton of money right now if you're not careful, buying tools and supplies and a tiller, and you've convinced yourself that you need a garden to save money, but really the payoff might not be till several years down the road. So if you're in a tight spot right at this moment, maybe buying a bunch of stuff so that you can plant a garden is not so good. But if you have some tools or know some friends that you could borrow a tiller from or something like that, it would be a great hobby. It's a great way to get some sun, to work, kind of see the fruits of your labor. I think gardens are good. Someone else gave a tip that said, if you don't want to make a garden, just make friends with someone who already has one. Actually, that's one of my strategies. Someone, she moved out of town, but she would constantly be bringing in tomatoes all summer long. And so I really didn't have to have my own tomato plants. And actually she gave me tomato plants as well. So I had like doubled the tomatoes. But yeah, if you don't have a friend, if you don't have a garden, make friends with someone who does, so that you can enjoy the fruits of their labors. And honestly, most of the time people who garden, they end up with way more stuff than they need anyway, and they're very happy to share. Also, another person said, this was a great idea, I thought, check and see if your neighborhood has a community garden. So if your neighborhood has one of those, that might be something that you can jump in on or help. I'm not sure exactly how they work, but I've heard of them, and I know they're a neat thing too. This next one, someone mentioned in the chat, is buy secondhand clothes. And Denise and I actually, this is probably one of the main ways that we save money, is buying secondhand clothes. You might be surprised because I am just so well dressed, and you might be surprised to know that most of my stuff that I wear is bought secondhand. And I'll be honest, I do shop for name brands. I look for things at Goodwill or Salvation Army because I think it lasts longer. It looks nicer. I don't wear necessarily junky stuff, but I keep an eye out for the things that are good values and things that I like, things that I enjoy. So Salvation Army, Goodwill, those are cheap places. Sometimes you have to do a little bit more searching to find the good bargains. If you're willing to spend a little bit extra, but have a little bit better choices, we also use a place called Ritzy Reruns and also Plato's Closet. So a little shout out for those folks. They're probably not open right now, but when they do open again, great small businesses. I'm sure they'd appreciate your business.
Kids' clothes would be like Once Upon a Child.
Oh, for kids' clothes, and he says Once Upon a Child. We use them quite a bit, as well as hand-me-downs from friends. So you can save a lot of money on clothes by buying secondhand. This one was a great tip, I think, from Pat. It said live below your means. So whenever you do get a new job or a raise, don't increase your standard of living. Basically, stay at the same amount of money that you had because you're used to it. You've found a way to live on that amount. But what happens is, myself included, whenever we get a raise, Denise gets a raise at work or whatever, all of a sudden you find a way to spend that money. And if you just stay at that same standard of living, all of a sudden you could be saving more money, putting money in the bank or giving. I remember Pat Street, associate pastor, also saying, just because, if you get a standard of living, if you increase your standard of living, also increase your standard of giving. So if you do make more money, it's a great opportunity to be generous as well. Pat, I think, also mentioned Christian health ministries. So if you are looking for health insurance, that can be a great option for you. Christian health ministries, it's lower cost. It's kind of it's a little bit different sort of insurance. It's sort of like they have people that share the health needs for each other in the group. That's a great way to save money on medical expenses. Any other questions, Denise, that have been coming in? Or people just having fun chatting and saying hi to each other?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Somebody said learn to cut your hair at home.
Learn to cut your hair at home. Okay.
It is a good idea. Doesn't work for us.
Since we're doing this live, we might as well have a fun story real quick. When Denise and I were first married, we were on a little bit of a tight budget. And I thought, well, let's save some money by buying some hair clippers. So we went to Walmart and bought a cheap set of hair clippers. And for a couple months, Denise cut my hair. And we did save, $10 a week, $10 a month. But the problem is, it took Denise like an hour and a half to cut my hair.
Okay.
If you know Denise, she's very specific and particular. And she would be like cutting 2 hairs at a time with the scissors. And it was like pulling my hair. And it was so painful. So in my case, in our marriage at least, we've learned that it's worth it for me to pay to buy a haircut. So anyway, that's one of our, might work for you, money saving
Great
tip.
idea, but
Not for us right now. And then another great idea here is to buy a house that you can truly afford. Don't go off what the realtor and loan officer say that you can afford. So again, going back early to our marriage, I remember going into the loan officer and we showed them how much I made at the Corps of Engineers, and they said, well, here's how much of a house you can buy. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's like amazing. That's like twice as much money of a house as we thought we could afford. And now thankfully, we didn't go up to our top budget. We stayed more towards the middle or the bottom end of what we thought we could afford. And what the loan officers never tell you is, oh yeah, you have to also add insurance, and you also have to add property taxes, and things are going to break in your new house. You're going to have to fix the refrigerator, you're going to have to fix some plumbing, all that kind of stuff. Those are expenses in housing that add up, and if you're not careful, you can end up, like house poor, where it's like we have a really nice house, but we can't afford to do anything else because we have more house than what we can afford. And also just, living simply is important too. So that's really helpful. Another person said, buy used cars and pay for them with cash. Again, similarly to buying a house, buy less car than you can afford. So I think that's a great tip. Denise and I have not had great luck with cars in our life. We've had a couple of breakdowns and been stranded a couple of times. So because of that, we've sort of taken Dave Ramsey's strategy where he kind of talks about buying a car that's maybe 3 or 4 years old. And then basically driving it till the wheels fall off. And we did that with our van pretty much. We had over 200,000 miles on our van. That was a really good vehicle. So I think we've kind of changed our strategy on that. But again, that's only if you can afford it. Don't buy a car that has a huge car payment if you're struggling to make that payment, because you're going to have to still pay for maintenance and insurance, gas, all those things are part of it. So it'd be much better, much less stressful to buy something that you truly can afford, or less than you can afford, like the person said. This was a great tip, I thought. Someone shared to get a Mid-American Energy audit. Actually, Mid-American Energy will come to your house. Of course, I don't know if they're doing it right now during the crisis. My guess is they're probably not. But when they do open up again, they'll do things like check your efficiency on your furnace. They'll recommend different things like insulation. They'll give you some free light bulbs to replace some light bulbs in your house and make some recommendations on ways that you can save on energy. So that's free. That doesn't cost anything. I would highly recommend that. Denise and I did that early on with our home, and we actually did an insulation project because our house was built in 1913, and it saved a lot of money on heating costs, and we had a rebate because of that. So that was a great tip. Kind of along with that, installing aerators on faucets to save water. Another great idea is to use filtered water. So some people I know have filters on their sink. Our refrigerator has a filter in it. So, it just makes the water taste a little better than straight out of the tap. And then we don't have to buy bottled water. So that saves a lot of money. It also saves on the environment, which is also a good thing. So water filters is a great way to save some money. Denise, any questions or tips?
Somebody just said borrow something instead of buying it.
Oh, that's great. Borrowing stuff.
Oh, that was from Angela.
Oh, from Angela. Okay.
Angela.
Thanks, Angela O'Neill. Great idea on borrowing things. I know, especially I'll speak for myself, sometimes it's kind of nice to get a new tool. Sometimes guys are notorious for wanting to buy a new tool for every project that they want to do. But you know what? Friends and family a lot of times have that thing that you need, and you can go ahead and just borrow it. And then if you find yourself borrowing it over and over again, then you decide, maybe I should have my own. And then someone could ask you to borrow your stuff later. So that's how that works. Anyone else have any questions? I'd also say if you have any money saving tips in yourself, you can go ahead and type those in the comments and share those with other people. That would be another fun way to interact as well.
Using the library, trading services.
Using the library, trading services, yeah. So I'm good at this, but you're good at that. Let's take turns helping each other out. This is kind of along the same lines. Asking friends for help with things that you don't know how to do yourself. Okay, so if someone knows how to do landscaping, then ask them to do that. I'm not super handy, so I tend to be the one asking friends for help. But I help them with other things. So I take them fishing, or I do other stuff with them. So that's one way to pay back. Next one is about credit cards. I think this is really important. A lot of people get in trouble with credit cards. If I'm not mistaken, the average credit card balance in the United States is somewhere around $15,000 per household, which is just incredible to think that people are paying that much interest. And so don't carry a balance on a credit card. If you do find yourself with a balance, stop. If you can't pay it off at the end of the month, you need to stop before you get yourself into a hole. Denise and I know there's different philosophies about this. Like Dave Ramsey would say, don't ever use a credit card. They're really bad. And in general, I agree with him, especially if you're having troubles financially. But for us, we were able to have a disciplined spending plan, and we actually make money off of our credit cards. We use the credit card cash rewards and points. Actually, that's one of the ways sometimes that I get some of my fishing gear that I save up my credit card points and trade it in for a new nice fishing rod. So that's one idea you could do. But again, be careful with that. If you're not careful, you can get into some financial trouble and pay way more interest than you would ever want to on a credit card. Another tip from someone else, never buy scratch-off lottery tickets. I know that you can't win if you don't play, but so many people put hope in their lottery. They spend money on that. They'd be so much better off using that money, saving it, giving it, investing it. Much better way than buying lottery tickets. Another person mentioned breaking down all of your expenses. Some expenses only happen once a year or twice a year or once a quarter. She recommended breaking them up into monthly payments. And so that's basically part of your spending plan is kind of planning for those things that happen in the future so that you're setting aside money every single month. A lot of times I hear at Christmas time, people say, oh, I don't have money for Christmas, or they put Christmas on their credit card and way overspend. But we know that Christmas happens every December 25th. It just happens every year. So it shouldn't be surprising to us that Christmas came. If we're doing well, we could save a little bit of money every month. And then whatever we have at Christmas time is what we can spend. If we only have $100 in our Christmas fund, then that's what we get to spend. If we've been saving more, well then we get to spend more. So that's a great tip. Another common expense is dining out. I know dining out is fun. It's easy. It's convenient. It tastes good. I know a lot of times right now people are talking about supporting local businesses, which is a great thing to do if you have the money. But sometimes I know people overspend on dining out. I would also say, maybe treat dining out as something special instead of something that you do every day. Maybe do it once or twice a month. That could be a good thing. And actually, Denise and I, we use a couple of things that really help save money on that. One is an app called, it's not an app, but a text messaging thing, a coupon called Tap On It. So if you just Google Tap On It, you can sign up, and basically they give you a buy one, get one free coupon. So when we do go out to eat, a lot of times it's about half as much as it would be. Also, if you've ever eaten out with Denise and I, we're kind of notorious for this. We usually share our meals. So if we go out as a family of 4, usually we'll only buy like 2 entrees and then just split it up. A lot of times we get water. That saves a ton of money because a lot of places charge you $2.50 just for a pop. So $2.50 times 10 plus a tip, you're talking at least $12.50 just for 4 glasses of pop. So that's a great way to save some money as well. Another coupon that we use is called Daily Deals from the Quad City Times. You know, again, I'm not making any money from these places. I'm just trying to tell you what's working for us. So those are some ways that we've saved some money over the years. Denise, any questions?
No questions yet. Somebody said like sometimes banks have Christmas funds.
Yeah, so like a Christmas fund at a bank, that's a good way to set aside some money.
Your mom said don't try to keep up with the Joneses.
Yes, don't try to keep up with the
Hi, Mom.
Joneses. Hi, Mom. Shout out to Mom. Thanks, Mom, for giving us good money advice over the years.
Use coupons.
Use coupons.
Somebody said like pay half your mortgage bi-weekly instead of monthly.
Okay, yeah, you can actually over time reduce some of your length
Pay
of mortgage, pay a little bit early if you pay extra, or pay bi-monthly. Basically, you get in, I think, an extra payment per year if you do that. So that's a good way to, over the long run, save on interest. And actually, that kind of brings me to the next point. Someone else emailed me this tip of paying extra on your debts. Okay, so just because the minimum payment is this amount or the monthly payment is this, you can actually send more than that, even if it's just another $50. It doesn't have to be a whole extra payment. Those little things add up over time and will reduce the amount of interest that you pay, and also you'll be done paying those things off earlier. You know, I mentioned Denise and I, you know, we both went to college. We had student loans, which again, I know some people might say student loans are terrible, but for us it was a good investment. I think if you know what sort of degree that you want to have and you're actually going to be able to get a job in that field, they can actually be a good investment in your future, but you just have to be careful with it, not to go crazy. But, you know, we just paid off our student loans, which is awesome. We freed up a lot of cash. So anything you can do to put extra money towards your loans, pay them off early, will help you a lot in the long run. I'm really grateful right now that we don't have those student loan payments.
For sure.
So I know many of you guys probably are paying off student loans right now too. So keep on it. Eventually you'll get to the end of the tunnel. You know, I mentioned this in my message, but this is just amazing financial advice. Give, save, and live on the rest in that order. So if you follow God's financial plan of giving first, God blesses us when we give. When we give, it sort of it puts things in perspective. It makes sure that money doesn't have control over our lives. You know, Jesus said, "Be free from the love of money," and that you cannot serve both God and money. You know, it's a hard issue. So giving is super helpful for us to making sure that we're not having money as an idol in our lives and putting God first. That's helpful. And then save. Make sure you're saving money for the future. And then you live on the rest, whatever's left over. And I mentioned this in my message, but if we get those things out of order, then things get out of whack in our lives. We start to prioritize money. We don't have money when we need it. And it causes financial stress and anxiety, which God doesn't want us to have that. So give, save, and live on the rest is a great way to avoid some of those things. I'll mention this real quick too. Financial Peace University. We are going to be starting an online version of the Financial Peace University class with Dave Ramsey. I will mention this too. Someone mentioned to me that there is a free 14-day trial for Financial Peace University. So if you go to Dave Ramsey's website, you can actually start watching the class. You can binge watch all the sessions if you want and get it all for free right now for 14 days. But part of the value of having the class is the accountability of watching the video with other people and having a dialogue, encouraging each other, sharing ideas with each other. So that class will be starting up on May 17th. And I believe the cost is $140 for the class. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's true. So if you're interested in that class, just email me at troy@davenportvineyard.org, and I will give you some details on how to sign up for Financial Peace. Last thing I want to mention is a few ways. Oh, actually, Denise, any questions right now?
Well, this is from Sarah Wall, but
Yeah.
she said, like, do your research. Sometimes there are loan forgiveness programs that you don't know about.
That's great.
So,
Yeah.
We have used
Loan
that.
forgiveness, yeah. So Denise, actually with a special ed degree and working in a lower income school district, she was able to have a significant amount of her student loans forgiven. I know there's other careers and other fields that have those opportunities. So just do your research on that. Sometimes those things can be available. And actually that's a great lead into some of the other things that I want to mention tonight. And that is kind of along the same lines. Where is there help available? So one thing I read an article on right now is that federal student loans right now can be in forbearance. which means, they're not forgiven. You still have to pay them back, but you don't have to make the payments for a while, and they're also not adding interest in the meantime. So basically, they're just kind of hitting pause on your student loans. So if you do have those student loans and you could use some extra money to free up right now, definitely check into that for forbearance right now. As well as don't be afraid to take financial help from the government. I got a stimulus check and I cashed it. I did not feel guilty at all from receiving money for the government. That's what it's for. So don't be guilty or ashamed if you need help with food stamps or medical insurance if you qualify. There's no shame at all in accepting those government help programs. Also, I saw the city of Davenport just put out a new program recently for rental assistance. If you just type in City of Davenport rental assistance, you can learn about that program. There's a number called 211, which is for the United Way here in the Quad Cities. Basically, they're sort of a gateway to lots of different social service agencies. They know different people that can help with various things. So call 211 if you need help with various things, and they can put you in touch with different people. I know another one that we also refer people to if they ask for help is called Community Action of Eastern Iowa. That number is 563-324-3236. That's 324-3236. And what they mostly help with, as far as I know, is utility assistance, and also they give help with food and diapers. So if food, diapers, utilities, give them a call. They can help as well. Here at the church, we do have a benevolence fund. If you've done all that you can, if you've tried asking for help other areas, we do have a fund that people contribute to very generously, and we as a church love to be there for each other as well. So don't be ashamed to call the church. Our number is 322-3970. We'll just ask you a little bit about your situation, and maybe ask you, have you tried a couple of these other places? And then if we're able to, if we have funds available, we can talk about helping you if we're able to. Let me think. Let me go back through here. Oh, this last one here. If you are struggling to pay your bills, don't just ignore it. The problem only gets worse if you pretend it's not there. Go ahead and be proactive and call your landlord or call your utility company. Whichever bill that you owe, go ahead and call them and say, hey, I'm struggling right now. Kind of work out a payment plan. Especially right now in this crisis, people are even more willing to work with you than normal typically. So again, don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help, just to help you get through this time that we're in right now. So Denise, that's all I had to share. Any other questions or things that people are posting there?
Not right now.
Okay.
Or no more than what we've already said.
No more? Okay. Well, thanks for tuning in. I look forward to reading a few of those comments that you guys posted. I hope this was helpful for you. I know a lot of people won't be listening live. They'll be watching it later. So I hope this is helpful for you as well. So again, thank you for tuning in. And I hope to see you guys again soon. Take care.